Hi there guys, welcome once again to the Performance Centre here at Howley Hall Golf Club in Leeds, where today I'm taking a look at the brand new AEROJET family of drivers from Cobra. I'm Ryan Rastall, PGA professional here at Howley Hall Golf Club in Leeds, and equipment expert for Golfshake.com. Like I say, today we have Cobra's newest driver, the AEROJET family, that we've had just come into us here this week, and we're going to put them through their paces in the Performance Centre on the TrackMan and show you exactly the differences between each model, but also what I find myself when hitting them as well, and see kind of which one works best with my golf swing, and kind of almost do a little bit of a fitting for myself while we're doing it. So before I get stuck into hitting these new drivers, let's hear all about them from Jose Miraflor, the Vice President of Marketing at Cobra PUMA Golf. We've had him on the channel before, and he's always given us some great insights into all the new technology.
Hey everyone, Jose Miraflor from Cobra Golf here. We got some brand new families of drivers here under the AEROJET name, and we're going to be sending this to Ryan. But let me give you a review of what Ryan's going to be talking to you about. Ryan, you're a really good golfer. You're going to be probably really impressed with this new LS driver, and I'll tell you why. The whole driver range carries a brand new aerodynamic package we call Advanced Aero, and each one of these drivers carries a brand new aerodynamic shaping. Softened leading edges, raised crown, raised aft. It's going to help you put your swing on and get even more speed. Inside this driver is a power bridge technology that positions the weight forward to give you more speed, and also low to keep your spin down. This should sound really good to you, doesn't it, buddy? Because it is not touching the sole, this bridge is free floating, it allows us to put a brand new face on called Power Shell Hot Face. The Power Shell wraps around not just the front, but on the sole of the club. We weld it on the bottom. It's going to flex more. It's a better trampoline for you to have your longest driving distances ever. So I think you're going to be really impressed with this. Maybe for you, but most likely for your other consumers, are two other drivers. First is the AEROJET Max. For those of you out there, when Ryan hits this, he's hopefully going to say, man, I put the weight in the back and this thing is stable. I can miss it off center and it's very stable. The ball goes in the straight direction and I don't lose a lot of distance. That's what we're hoping that he's going to say and feel. You move the weight to the heel and he's going to say, oh, that turns a little bit left too much for me. You know why? Because we built a lot of draw in this. So this isn't for Ryan, but maybe for the people out there who suffer from a fade or slice that they're trying to hit straighter, this is going to be the right drive for you. So max forgiveness or max draw. Finally, and not least, a lot of you guys are going to love the standard AEROJET. It's the best blend of speed and forgiveness, or if you need to hear it a different way, it's the most forgiving driver that has no sacrifice in speed. So Ryan, when you try this, you're going to be pleasantly surprised and maybe a little bit confused between this and the LS. Whichever one hits it with the right amount of spin and launch, it's going to be the right driver for you. But that's it for me. I hope you guys liked that presentation. 3 drivers, a lot of performance, AEROJET from Cobra. 3
very distinct models in this new driver. So we'll start with the most forgiving. So this is AEROJET Max. We can see there's 2 weights in there, one in the heel and one towards the back of the driver there. This is obviously the more draw bias model. So we can move that weight. So we've got 12 grams at the back, 3 in the heel. We can flip those if we want to make it slightly more draw bias, or move the heavy weight to the back if we want that bit more launch and spin. And certainly that's what this driver should give us. Huge footprint when we sit it down on the ground as well. So it's quite stretched from sort of top edge to the back of the driver there, and kind of elongated kind of shape for maximum forgiveness and maximum distance, and helping you to launch this driver a little bit higher. Let's talk about the standard AEROJET model then. So very similar in appearance, but we notice this just has the one weight there at the back of the driver. So the kind of draw bias element of this has disappeared somewhat, although with the MyFly adjustable sleeve that Cobra have, we're able to put it in a draw setting as well as move the loft up and down to really help that player who maybe doesn't need loads of draw bias, but certainly would benefit from that face kind of rotating and squaring up that little bit more throughout the swing. LS is obviously low spin, so we can see that the weighting is much more pushed towards the front of the driver now. This is going to lower the the spin in the driver by shifting the weight forward. Again, these are movable, so we've got 12 grams and 3 grams as well, which we can shift into the, well, more towards the heel and the toe really. 3 drivers here that suit very different types of golfer, but also are utilizing the same technologies throughout. So I'll show you these on this LS model. So one of the main technologies is Power Bridge. Basically what Power Bridge is a section inside the head of the driver that stiffens the chassis of it. So basically what that means is if we don't hit the middle of the face, or when we do hit the middle of the face, we're getting much more energy transfer into the golf ball. And we're seeing slightly higher ball speeds than we saw in last year's LTDX models. And around 2 miles an hour per driver here that we're seeing in addition to what we saw last year. And I don't know about you guys if you've tried LTDX, but it was pretty quick last year. But also I think in terms of cosmetics, I really like the look of these. We've also got hot face technology where we have thicker and thinner sections around there that allow the off-center hits to come off a little bit quicker than they would have done. Like I say, we're going to put them through their paces now on the TrackMan here in the Performance Center at Howley Hall and see exactly which one suits me the best. So we're going to start with the AEROJET Max driver, okay, the one that is the most draw bias. I've put the weight in the back of the head here, so we should see quite high flight, maybe a little bit more spin than I'm used to, but hopefully easy to launch, easy to hit, and quite forgiving. I'm going to put the same shaft in all 3 of these drivers, okay, which is Project X Hazardous Yellow, Hazardous Smoke Yellow, should I say, 6.5, 60 grams, so pretty close to what I would normally use anyway. Yep, very high. Decent strike, and it's starting to turn a bit, but not a massive kind of bias from right to left, and no huge amount of shape on it really. Certainly feels very good off the face, very powerful, very high. Lots and lots of spin, which is kind of killing the distance a little bit. 162 ball speed, which is a bit slower than I would expect when hitting my own driver, but in terms of the sort of distances we're getting there, not too bad really. Let's try the standard AEROJET model and see how that compares. You'd be hard pushed to tell the difference between the 2 of them, but both still look pretty good. Again, look pretty forgiving. Again, really high flight to start with. Again, feels good, sounds quite good, I think. Sounds pretty solid. 292 total. So we're starting to see now that because the spin is becoming a little bit more under control. If you remember with the Max model, we had a couple over 4,000 RPM. Now it's just over 3,000, which yes, is still high, but the distances have increased, 270 carry, 292 total now. So we're starting to see those distances come up a little bit. So now we move on to AEROJET LS, okay? Lower spin, weights towards the front there. I've got the heavier one just in the heel there, but we'll see how that goes. Set down at 8 degrees as well, same as the model we just used before, the standard AEROJET, and exactly the same shaft. It has to be noted, this head is ever so slightly smaller than the others. So this is 457 cc's, only slightly smaller, but it is a little bit smaller. Sits nicely behind the ball again, looks really good, and probably looks, to me, the nicest of the 3. Certainly sounds a little bit different, which I quite like. Sounds quite solid actually, it's good. You can see that the spin has dropped considerably, so 2,400 RPM now, carry 288, 299 total, so it's the longest shot I've hit already. Again, just visibly when we're hitting it in here, we can see it's just launching that little bit flatter and a little bit lower. But then it's backed up when we see it on the TrackMan here, where it's landing and where it's running to, we can see is longer as well. So again, 282 carry, 299 total, spin under that 3,000, which we weren't getting with the other 2 models at all. So there are very distinct differences between these 3 models, and it's not just, if you're a high handicapper, you need the Max model, and low handicapper, you need LS. There are differences in the spins, in the ball speeds, in the way they're easier to shape. You notice, well, I've noticed straight away with these 2, this one's actually easier for me to square the face on, which you'd think the Max and the Standard would be, but purely because they launch higher, the ball's just starting a little bit further right and not coming back as much, Whereas this one, I'm able to square it up. Don't know why, but it just feels a little bit easier to do that. So now that we've hit a few shots with each of them, let's get on the TrackMan Performance Center. Let's hit 3 decent strikes with each one and see exactly how those numbers change when we move through the models in this family. So we've now had a chance to hit shots with all 3 of these new models of AeroJet driver. Let's start with the first one we hit, which was AeroJet Max. Ball speed 167 we can see with this, which is a little bit down on what I'd expect really, but in terms of the distances we're getting, 272-ish, but we can see the launch is really high, the spin is also quite high, so 3,800 RPM as an average. This driver, it has to be said, isn't the one for me, but maybe for you, if you're that player that maybe comes over the top a little bit, launches that ball low, sort of drops the club on top of the ball a bit when you strike it, and doesn't really get the ball in the air properly. Then when we move into the standard AeroJet model, we can start to see the ball speed increases, we can start to see the distance has gone up, so now 278 carry, 294 total with this, so we're starting to control that spin, the ball's coming off the face that little bit faster, and we're getting a bit more distance. And if you look here, when we can see the ball flights all together there, the white ones being the AeroJet Max, which is higher, we can see the yellow ones that little bit lower in the standard AeroJet, and then when we move on to LS in the blue ball flights there, that little bit lower, which is exactly what these drivers are designed to do. When we get into that AeroJet LS, as we see on here, we can see now that we're getting a bit more carry. That's mainly due to the spin dropping a hell of a lot. So we can see now ball speed's gone up to just short of that 170 mark. So it's a tiny little bit slower than the standard AeroJet actually, but we can certainly see a good comparison there between these 3 models. And hopefully you've enjoyed seeing this first hit that we've had of the new AeroJet range from Cobra. Please drop us some comments in the section below if you've got any questions about these drivers or custom fitting in general, and have a look at some of the other content we've got here on the Golfshake YouTube channel to help you play more and play better. We'll see you all very, very soon.